2024. The South China Sea. A Filipino fishing boat is fishing in its waters. Suddenly, a massive Chinese Coast Guard ship approaches. Water cannons open fire. The Filipino boat tries to escape. The Chinese ship rams it. The Filipino boat nearly sinks. Is this just a fishing dispute? No. This is a rehearsal for World War III. So why is this small sea so important? And why could war break out here? The South China Sea. Looks small on a map, but it's actually massive. 3.5 million square kilometers. A critical passage between the Indian and Pacific Oceans. 30% of global trade passes through here. Oil tankers, container ships, everything. So who owns this sea? That's where the problem begins. 5 countries claim the same waters: China, the Philippines, Vietnam, Malaysia, Taiwan. And all of them claim they're right. But China's claim is the most radical. 1947, China publishes a map. The map has a strange line. They call it the 9-dash line. This line covers almost all of the South China Sea. 90% of it. China says, these waters are historically ours. Chinese fishermen have been here for 2,000 years. So what do other countries say? Nonsense. These waters are on our continental shelf. International law says they belong to us. So what does international law say? 1982. The United Nations creates an agreement called UNCLOS. Law of the Sea. Rules are simple. 12 miles from shore, your territorial waters, sovereign zone. 200 miles from shore, your exclusive economic zone. You have fishing and oil drilling rights. So under these rules, who has rights in the South China Sea? The Philippines, Vietnam, Malaysia, because they have coastlines. Does China have a coastline? Technically, no. China's mainland coast is too far away, doesn't fall within the 200-mile limit. So what does China do? It builds artificial islands. 2014. Satellite images capture something. In the South China Sea, China is doing massive construction. They're pouring sand onto coral reefs, creating islands, not just small islets, massive military bases. Fiery Cross Reef, 3,000-meter runway. Fighter jets can land. Subi Reef, radar systems, missile platforms. Mischief Reef, harbor, military facilities. Between 2015 to 2020, 7 major artificial islands were built. So is this legal? No. Under UNCLOS, artificial islands don't give you sovereignty rights. But China doesn't care. These islands are historically ours, they say, and they build military bases. So what do other countries do? 2013. The Philippines takes China to international court. The International Arbitration Court in The Hague. The Philippines says, China's 9-dash line is illegal. They're occupying our waters. 2016. The court announces its decision. China's claims have no legal basis. They have no historic rights in the South China Sea. The world is shocked. China lost. So what does China do? It doesn't recognize the ruling, calls it a piece of paper. It doesn't bind us, and continues building artificial islands. So what can the Philippines do? Nothing, because they lack military power. But they have one ally, America. America has a defense treaty with the Philippines since 1951, the Mutual Defense Treaty, meaning an attack on the Philippines equals an attack on America. 2019. Chinese ships harass Filipino fishermen, water cannons, ramming attacks. The Philippines calls America help us. So what does America do? The U.S. Navy begins freedom of navigation operations in the South China Sea. What does this mean? American warships pass through waters China claims. Message: these are international waters, not China's. China gets furious. This is provocation. Leave our waters, they say. But America doesn't leave. Tensions escalate. June 2024. A Filipino Coast Guard ship approaches a Chinese artificial island. Chinese ships intervene. Water cannons open fire. A Filipino soldier loses his finger. Philippine President Marcos says, if a Filipino soldier dies, it becomes a cause for war. U.S. Secretary of State Blinken says, the Mutual Defense Treaty stands. We support the Philippines. China says, we're defending our waters. America should stay out. The world holds its breath. So, will war break out? Not yet. But the risk increases every day. Because it's not just the Philippines. Vietnam has problems too. Vietnam considers the Paracel Islands its territory. But China occupied the islands in 1974, after a brief war. 2014. China does oil drilling near the islands. Vietnamese ships try to block it. Chinese ships ram them. A Vietnamese ship sinks. So what can Vietnam do? Nothing. Militarily too weak. Malaysia has the same problem. Chinese ships roam Malaysian waters. Malaysia protests. China doesn't listen. Result? 5 countries in the South China Sea, all claimants. But military power is with China. And China believes might makes right. Trade. 30% of global trade. $5 trillion worth of goods annually. Oil and natural gas. Billions of barrels of oil beneath the sea. Massive natural gas deposits. Fishing. The region is the world's richest fishing ground. Millions depend on it for livelihood. Military strategy. Whoever controls the South China Sea controls the Pacific. China wants to push America out of the region. If China controls this area, America's power in the Pacific ends. Japan, South Korea, the Philippines, all become dependent on China. America can't accept this. That's why there's a war risk here. Imagine now, 2025. A Chinese ship rams a Filipino ship. A Filipino soldier dies. The Philippines calls America. Help us under our treaty. What will America do? Option 1. It intervenes. American warships arrive. They face off with China. The first shot is fired. China fires back. Japan, South Korea, Australia join in, U.S. allies. North Korea, Russia support China. World War III begins. Option 2. It doesn't intervene. America backs down. A small accident, not worth war, they say. The Philippines is left alone. China wins. Japan, South Korea wonder, will America protect us too? Trust is lost. Alliances collapse. China dominates the Pacific. Which is worse? Nobody knows. But one thing is certain. The South China Sea is the place with the highest war risk in the world. A small spark can ignite everything. So what do you think? Should America intervene? Or should it avoid the risk of war? Is China right? Or should international law take priority? And most importantly, will war break out in the South China Sea? The answers might be hidden right now, on a ship, on a missile platform, in a decision. And the world is holding its breath, waiting.